Para simulan ang ating pagtitipon ngayong gabi, magandang gabi po sa lahat at salamat sa pakikipag-ugnay sa amin sa Hangkabasu Kahawa. Upang formal pong simulan, ah, mangyari po ay tatawagin ko si Shariful Mansul upang ipakilala sa inyo ano nga ba ang Bulansang Series at ano rin ba o sino si Hangkabasu Kahawa.
Thank you. So, ako si Shariful Hashim S. Mansul, sa miyembro ng Hangkabasu Kahawa. Basically, this is an event organized by Hangkabasu Kahawa in partnership with MSU-TCTO, specifically the Cultural Affairs Office, and Cindy, Zamboanga-based youth organization. So, what's Hangkabasu Kahawa anyway? Hangkabasu Kahawa is a platform for academically oriented and advocacy oriented people related to the Sulu Archipelago or from the Sulu Archipelago, and aims to say do initiatives that relate to the enriching of, let's say, awareness of identity in this specific area called the Sulu Archipelago. And when we say Sulu Archipelago, we're speaking of it in terms of its historical size. That is not just the Sulu province, but rather Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Basilan, Zamboanga Peninsula, the southern tip of Palawan, and coastal Sabah, and even inside mainland Sabah, including Kalimantan to some extent. So this is, to us, the Sulu Archipelago, basically the former territories of the Sulu Sultanate. Now, this is where Hangkabasu Kahawa operates. It seeks to resurrect or to restore a kind of collective consciousness in this particular area. And there's a burgeoning identity relating to it called the Bangsasu. This is where Hangkabasu Kahawa takes flight from, basically. As part of our programs, we conceived of what is called the Bulansang Series. It's a monthly webinar or discussion, online discussion, that talks about date appropriate topics such as today. Today is the 50th year since the burning of Holo in 1974 happened. And we wanted to talk about that because there are not enough platforms talking about the Bangsasu, or the identities in the Sulu Archipelago and our histories. So we want to change that. Hence this program called the Bulansang Series. So this will happen every month on a specific date, and with the presence of certain people in the Sulu Archipelago. Like next month, National Women's Month, we're planning to host the episode 2 of the Bulansang series talking about women in the Sulu Archipelago. Tapos in April naman, we're planning to talk about Tausug cuisine since it's the National Food Month. So we'll be inviting people in the restaurant industry or something like that, or people who we know are culture bearers of Tausug cuisine. So please tune in to Hangkabasu Kahawa. This is just one out of many episodes in the Bulansang series. And also, if I may add, what does Hangkabasu Kahawa means? Or HBK as we abbreviate it. Hangkabasu in Bahasa Sug or the Tausug language means one or one cup. Hangka is a prefix. It means like one. Baso means baso in Tagalog. So one cup. Kahawa. Kahawa means coffee. It's from the loan word kahwa in Arabic. And in Bahasa Sug, we took it as kahawa. So Hangkabasu Kahawa, basically it means cup of coffee. And it relates to the coffee culture in the Sulu archipelago. How in the Sulu archipelago, the coffee culture is a tad different from the coffee culture in say Luzon or Visayas, because in the Sulu archipelago, drinking coffee is not something that is bourgeois when you look at it. It's not something that you can use to socially climb. It's not something that you can brag about, because it's so part and parcel of Tausug culture that in Holo, for example, you can buy a cup of coffee for like 15 pesos or 10 pesos, 5 pesos. And it's a native coffee, hindi yun Nescafe na 3 in 1. It's it's from the directly sourced out from the farms, and the Tausug people basically built a culture out of that intimate relation to coffee. And every time may nangyayaring coffee sessions, laging may discussions, laging may abstractions na nangyayari. People start talking about their society, about their religion, about stuff that is beyond the menial things about being human. Stuff that's not just gossip, stuff that's not just about your work or about your classes. They start talking about larger things. So, ito yung gusto naming um, i- i-recreate sa Kabaso Kahawa. We wanna recreate that kind of openness to ideas, to knowledge, in a way na nare-remind kami kung paano siya gawin, kung paano siya i-operate sa Sulu Archipelago. Ayun. So, welcome to Hangkabasu Kahawa. I hope you enjoy this first episode of the Bulansang Series. This is a heavy one for a first episode, because it commemorates the 50th year since the burning of Holo. And the burning of Holo isn't just literally the burning, it has many after effects. The Exodus is just one, for example. But anyway, I won't prolong this introduction. I'll pass my ball back to Miss Sao. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Shariful. Para po sa ating mga kasama na nakikipag-ugnay ngayon, maaari po kayong maglagda ng inyong mga tanong sa ating comment section para mamaya ay pwede rin nating basahin at makita kung ano rin ang inyong pagtingin o kung meron ba kayong naaalala regarding sa burning of Olo. So, without further ado, tatawagin ko po ang isa pa naming kasama na si Alvin Mar para ipakilala ang writer or author ng short story na pinamagatang February 7, Alvin Mar.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Sao. Um, Professor Nelson Dino is currently the Director of the Cultural Affairs Office in MSU Tawi-Tawi. He is also an educator, translator, author of several books promoting languages, culture, and the arts, a well-traveled researcher, and a resource speaker on various topics including literature, the arts, and indigenous culture. Being a Tausug, he writes and speaks in his native tongue, Bahasa Sug. He has been passionate about the languages and cultures of Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago, including Visayas and Luzon. He writes both short stories and poetry in Bahasa Sug. Aside from engaging himself in creative writing, he also does translations for different clients in different languages as he speaks and writes in English, Tagalog, Bisaya, and Malay. For 3 years, he worked full-time as a lecturer at Mindanao State University in Sulu and is currently a faculty member of MSU Tawi-Tawi, while still active in the arts and writing fiction and non-fiction. He has spent a huge part of his professional life researching indigenous culture and the arts, for which he has been invited many times as a speaker and resource person. He has authored 2 published novels and 3 poetry collections published in Indonesia. in addition to his numerous other short stories and poems published in Malaysia and the Philippines. His nonfiction book, Suluk Ukil, on the Barong expression, motifs, and meanings, has just been included in the 50 best Malaysian titles for international rights for 2022. Everyone, let's help us to welcome Professor Nelson Dino.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Binmar, brother Binmar. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this session.
Waalaikumsalam.
Oi, Jay, many persons or individuals that I know that I know here. Yeah, Dr. Elio Garcia, thank you so much for having us here. I mean, thank you so much. I appreciate that you accepted that invitation from the HKB, you know. Yeah. And Jay, and I'd like to recognize also the presence of Baba Iga Gandilan, the former tourism officer of the province of Sulu, Ma'am Jainab Alfad.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Thank you for this, Nelson. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that I cannot open my camera, I think because of the signal, but it's all right. You can see naman my face there. I look handsome in that picture, but in reality, that's questionable. And
We do not believe that, Ka.
okay, brother Kair is also here. Sir Danilo Sagaral, Dayang Min is in Oman, I think.
Assalamualaikum, Brother Nelson.
Yeah, Dayang Min is in Oman, I think. Yeah, and then Azhar, brother Azhar, AJ is in Borneo. And then we also have here the writer from Cebu who was born in Iligan, John Dante. He is a writer, a novelist too. And of course, Dr. Ahmad Musahari, and the students of, I think, History 3, History 3, History of the Muslim Filipinos, and the indigenous people. Yeah, they are here. Who else? I cannot see some of them names. Oh, okay. Al-Qasim Manjursa, our brother. He is also here. Salam. Our host. In that Sauda, of course, Shariful, the co-host. And so, hindi ko na kayo mapangalanan. I cannot name you all, but yeah, just... Oh, Miss Misra is here also. A director of performing arts in Holo.
Yes, Sir Nelson. Indigenous Cultural Association po.
Yep, Indigenous Cultural Association, so she is here. Right? Okay. Pasensya na kayo na hindi ko ma-mention lahat. Yun. So sisimulan na natin ang kwento na I think someone else will read the whole story, I think, but I'll just give the background of this story, kung paano natin, in how it came to be, you know. This is about the February 7 burning of Holo in 1974, and today this is the 50th year, no? 50 years na. I wanted to share bakit ito tinawag na burning of Holo. It is the Battle of Holo, also referred to as the burning of Holo or the seeds of Holo. It happens when Moro National Liberation Front within the military, the government of the Philippines in February in the municipality of Jolo, the town center of Jolo. And it is a considered one of the key early incidents of the insurgency. They call it insurgency in the Philippines, and led numerous Muslim leaders to resist actually martial law under Ferdinand Marcos Sr. as a president that time. And the MNLF forces initially managed to control the municipality, except accordingly the airport and an adjacent military camp. And there was also the narratives comes from the U.S. Embassy that this is more serious fighting between the MNLF and the Philippine government that time. Huh? Um, and then another one, there's a narrative also from the witnesses. Now they said that the fire, which started about 3 o'clock in the afternoon from the eastern sector, was blown into town by strongly southerly winds. So it happens na malakas ang hangin noon. So lumakas yung apoy, no? The fire was really intense that time. And then there was also someone, the writer also was saying, si Said Sadain, Allah yarham. He was, accordingly, he was in Holo in 1974, a 15-year-old high school senior, no, expecting to receive in another month a graduation diploma. Now, this background, the story of this, all of the witnesses, testimonials or testimony of the story happened in Holo in that date. And also the story of our grandparents, the parents, because hindi na natin naabutan yun. But we just like read the books, read the narratives, read the news about it. And I thought personally that time, 2 years ago, ikalabing 48 years ng burning of Holo. So naisip ko sumulat ng isang kwento na short story na pinamagatang, and I titled it February 7. The story is about it's a story about a young girl, Nisa Mulban Jamari. But this is a fictional name. No, hindi to siya totoong pangalan. And this is not true names, no? Nisa Mulban Jamani. And on February 7, 1974, she was supposed to graduate from elementary school and deliver her valedictory address. The holocides occurred on the same day. So the anti-government forces entered Holo, and that was the MNLF, in order to seize control from the government forces. When they clashed with the government forces, the town was burned, and the buildings were reduced to rubble. Nisa, her brother, and her father fled to Bangas Island for their safety. So they passed through the road where they also encountered both groups, forces. Ibig sabihin nun, there was a military, there was also the MNLF forces. And then along the way, in this story we wrote, these so many dead bodies, no, sa daan, no, sa road. And then after some time on this island, I mean, the island na sinasabi natin, the Bangas Island, government forces transferred them to the Holo port, no? to pier, to await the Navy boat that would transport them to Zamboanga City para ma-ensure ang safety nila. Nisa also wanted to reunite with her mother, who had been in Manila that time, no, for work prior to the siege, because her mother was a teacher. That time, nakapunta yung mother niya sa Manila. Tapos, nagkaroon ng burning of Holo. So, her mother was in Manila that time. So, after 7 days of waiting on the pier with 1,000 other civilians, they were actually finally able to board the Navy boat. The purpose was para magkaroon ng ma-save sila, but ang gusto noon ng ni Nanisa is actually going to Dumaguete. Kasi nga meron din siyang parang meron siyang auntie sa kwento na to na nakatira doon. So, ang hirap-hirap din ng flight noon. So kaya parang isang 7 days sila naghintay na sasali lang nung joining the Navy to go to Zamboanga. So, ang kwentong ito naging inspirasyon nga itong Burning of Holo. Kasi parang nakita natin walang nakafocus na sumulat talaga na intensively about this. Wala tayong biniblame dito kasi nga everyone was a victim. Gusto ko lang maikwento siya through short story sa base din sa mga nabasa natin ng mga accounts. Pero nilagyan lang natin ng karakter na wala din, hindi ko rin kilala, but ginawa lang natin kasi nga para maikwento, malaman naman ng mga tao what had happened in Holo that time. Para walang blame, no? Kasi nga what happened was, and until today, nobody knows who really sumunog, no? Who burned really Holo, no? Sometimes biniblame ang gobyerno, sometimes biniblame ang MNL forces. So parang walang umaangkin na kung sino talaga, no? But kung titingnan natin, of course, because of the fighting, the other side, of course, they have these arguments, they have these reasons. So, ang tinitingnan natin dito, yung paano naging biktima ang common people. Karamihan nga nagsilabasan na, thousands of them, hundreds of them, even thousand went to Sabah. May malaking exodus pumunta doon, tapos they were allowed by the Malaysian government to stay there. Hanggang ngayon nga, marami pang even what it is called passport, limited passport. We call it IMM-13 so that they could stay. And with the help also of the UNHCR, United Nations. I was thinking to write this, although mayroon ng parang isang novel na focus dito yung kay Under the Something Mountain, kay Yabes, no? Yun, nasulat din tungkol doon. Kung titingnan natin 50 years ago, yes, we are very thankful that Holo is booming. Holo is progressing today. Kailangan pa natin ang rehabilitation of Holo. Kasi marami pang makikita na sign or simbolo ng karahasan noon. But very din tayo na progressing siya, no? Ang ganda na ng Holo, no? If you want to visit, really very beautiful. But we just wanted to remember na this hopefully burning of Holo could give us something to remember what had happened to us and into Holo. Because whether we like it or not, yung hindi nakaabot, katulad natin, yung mga ganitong mga first generation ng 1974, so naging first generation tayo, we do not know. We are not the first-hand witness of what had happened. So I just wanted to feel when I wrote this story na parang I was there. I want to feel the very sadness and frustrations of the common people because I think hindi kinukwento hindi kinukwento ang common people stories, common people sides of story. Kasi puro nakikita natin is from the sides of the forces, no? Mapa-MNLF, mapa-military. So parang kwento lang ng politika, paglalabanan ng tawag dito ng idealism, the rise of this, the rise of that, but hindi nabigyan pansin masyado ang konteksto ng common people, kung paano sila naghirap, kung paano sila naghintay sa pier, kung paano sila transfer from one island to another, kung paano yung iba nagsilikas dito doon sa Tawi-Tawi, sa Manila. And I could remember one of those parte where I took the event, no, of the story na inalo natin diyan para lang makuha natin, mabuo natin na 360 degrees ang story. I think he was a very very good friend of mine. I think he was the cousin of Ma'am Jainab. It was kasama ang kwento niya doon sa libro na na-publish natin noong 2020, yung Sumangsang-sug, no? Si Sir, si Ka Fazlur Rahman.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
first cousin, Fazlur Rahman.
Yeah, he was your cousin. And I
Yeah.
was inspired by his story also because his grandmother told him the story. So I was inspired by that, you know. Kaya nabuo natin itong February 7 na kwento. So far, yun lang ang background ko muna about the story and the synopsis of it. So, I'll give back the carpet to Inda Sao. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Professor Neldy, for that. Before we proceed to our enrichment or discussion, I would like to campaign once again, the petition that we launched for the nomination of Mr. Ramir Tawasil as the national artist. So kung hindi pa po ninyo ito nalalagdaan, pwede po ninyong i-visit ang page para makita doon ang link at nang makapag-petition din po kayo. This may be a small act, pero napakalaking bagay rin po ito para maramdaman ng ating gobyerno na malaki ang suporta ng taong bayan para kay para kay Mr. Tawasil as the next national artist. Ayan. Yes, Prof. Just this morning, I really felt so emotional about the short story. Kasi parang habang binabasa mo yun, talagang parang tawag dito. Parang naiinganyo kang maging revolusyonaryo. Yun yung vibes. Pero, gusto kong i-emphasize dun sa dulo, yung nakalagay na, basahin ko na lang. 7 days after February 7, I was able to gasp the good air from the Navy boat departing from Jolo to Zamboanga City. I looked straight at the peak of Butumantangis from the naval ship, comparing it to the family photo I inserted into my notebook pages. As it slowly disappeared from my sight, I couldn't help but cry. I knew I would be back. Jolo is still where I imagined I'd live as an adult. I resolved to go back to see a home healing from the terrible nightmare. I resolved to one day be of the help to others in my town, so that in times of crisis like this, I cannot be indifferent to the suffering of others. As I bit the last piece of cookie I picked up from the platter, marked with the number 7 on its center, I remember my father telling me as a child that wounded pride cannot be remedied with war, because in wars, no one wins. Every soul loses. I felt relieved, freed from the memories of the savagery of war in February 7, 1974. I look at my passport and ticket in front of me. It's time to go home. It's so nice because it's inviting us to look at the past without hatred, but instead with so much learning. So syempre hindi ako yung ah, official reactor nito, no? Para hindi natin patagalin ang reaction regarding to this short story, may I call in again Alvin Mar to introduce our reactor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Sao. Dr. Elio F. Garcia Jr. is an academic luminary and creative force shaping the landscape of film studies and literature, currently serving as Assistant Professor 7 at the UP Film Institute, UP Diliman. Dr. Elio's intellectual journey reflects a profound commitment to scholarly inquiry and cultural exploration. With a PhD in English with a structured emphasis in film and media from the University of Oregon, Dr. Elio's academic pursuits have delved into the intricate intersections of nationhood, indigeneity, and the Anthropocene in Philippine cinema. Their dissertation, titled The End of Modernity, Temporalities of Nation, Indigeneity, and the Anthropocenes in the Contemporary Independent Cinema of the Philippines, epitomizes their dedication to probing complex narratives and temporalities within the realm of contemporary independent cinema. Dr. Elio's research and teaching interests span a diverse array of discipline, encompassing film theory and aesthetics, post-colonial theory, political economy of media, and literary and cultural studies. Their scholarly contributions, showcased in prestigious journals and publications, offer critical insights into the nuances of Philippine cinema, ecological discourse, and cultural representation. Moreover, Dr. Elio's literary endeavors exemplify a rich tapestry of creative expression and cultural resonance. Their essays and editorials, published in esteemed journals and collections, illuminate themes of identity, environment, and societal change, capturing the essence of the Filipino experience with eloquence and depth. As our esteemed reactor, Dr. Elio's engagements have transcended academic boundaries, resonating with audiences both locally and internationally. Their thought-provoking discussions on film criticism, creative writing, and cultural heritage underscore their role as a catalyst for intellectual dialogue and social engagement. In addition to their academic pursuits, Dr. Elio's commitment to public service and community engagement underscores their broader vision of scholarship as a vehicle for social transformation. Their leadership roles and contributions to cultural institutions reflect a steadfast dedication to nurturing talent and fostering cultural appreciation. Everyone, please join me welcoming Dr. Elio F. Garcia Jr.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vinmar, for that very kind and generous introduction, and to all the organizers, the Office of Culture and Arts now of MSU Tawi-Tawi, of course, Professor Nelson Dino, and to all of you who are here with us. I'm just so happy being able to witness such a good number, no, who are ready to enter into an important conversation such as the burning of Jolo in 1974, and um, as a reactor, my job really is to allow more doors opening for a richer conversation that will revolve not only on the burning of Holo in 1974 as history, but also of the burning of Holo in February 7 as a work of fiction by Nelson Dino. And I guess I would like to share to you some of the thoughts that have been running in my head. No, several weeks when Nelson had given me the privilege to to read his short story, and the first really strong feature that I would like to emphasize is the importance of perspective in this story, because the main character is actually quite an adult who's living in the US and already very far psychically, temporally, and geographically from the 1974 event in her life. But the kind of psychical journey that our character allows us to partake goes back to the time when she was just a young girl and about to graduate as a valedictorian. So, ready na siya sa speech niya, kaya lang ang nangyari ay, yun nga, merong burning, no? So, that's why napaka-importante ng perspective na pinili ng ating writer, kasi for a story such as this one, the choice of consciousness that operates in the work of fiction is also the choice of ideology that the writer wishes, or probably not wishes, to highlight. It's a matter of, it's a choice, that is so important, because the kind of consciousness that will operate is the position, the critical and the political position that the work of fiction will do, to the reader. So we are given the perspective of those who are caught in the crossfire, which is quite very important, especially that Nelson wanted to show to us alternative versions of what really happened. If you do a cursory search in the internet about the burning of Holo in 1974, you will be surprised that there's not a lot of references available. And if we look into who are authoring those references, we do have official public documents from the perspective of the US people. We do have documents from the government. We do have eyewitness accounts from important people, mostly academic, those who are in power. And those are okay, but we always remember that to be able to tell the story, a version of the story is already a suggestion of where you are coming from the vantage point of power. So it's very important that we hear different gradations, different sources, different voices, coming together to give to us, to paint to us a picture. And so Nelson is giving us a version of an ordinary citizen, a young girl at that, and allows us to experience the horror, the catastrophe, really, of being caught in the fighting between the government and the MNLF. And I'm quite glad that Nelson was speaking about, earlier in his introduction, that who's to blame? Who really burned, right? Holo. Because who burned, who should be blamed, is also a question of who should answer to the rehabilitation that's gonna happen afterwards. And this rehabilitation does not only come in the form of infrastructures. Commonly, we think that, okay, a city that was once under siege and destroyed or pulverized has recovered because anyway, new buildings have sprouted, the jobs are back, the people are back. But really, there is a concept called the slow violence that we do not see afterwards. The emotional, psychological, social trauma that also need interventions. And these traumas, right, unattended to and unintervened through the decades, eventually have consequences that are individual and collective, right? So ano yung mga consequence na hindi natin nakikita, na hindi visible, na hindi spectacular. Meaning to say, ang concept kasi natin ng violence, for example, ang concept natin ng paghihirap, ng suffering is always visual. But what about those that are unspoken? Those that are hidden? Those that are buried underneath, no? And this is especially the venue of literature, right? literature is capable of addressing some of these invisible concerns, okay, that we are naming today. So in the short story of Nelson, no, February 7, we see a very gripping account of that escape. And the thing is that, you know, we see very narrow escape that happens. That's why the story is very gripping. When I read it, I could tell that the writer is really a visual artist, no, because of the vivid descriptions happening in the story. The second part, after perspective, is the idea of what it means to remember, right? So when we say commemoration, okay, so we remember 1974, February 7, Holo was burned. That's remembering. But what sort of methods should we attach to the act of remembering? Because remembering can be a method, right? It's not only like recalling to mind, but what and how the recall happens. So in this case, remembering is a sort of retelling, right? Like giving it a vivid dramatization, which is the power of literature really, because how else can we enliven, or how can we dynamize a rather small footnote in Philippine history? You know, I'll be very honest with you. I live maybe two-thirds of my life in Mindanao. I was born in Mindanao, but I was born in Cagayan de Oro. I grew up there. And even if I come from Mindanao, the idea of Holo in my head is a very far country. And I say country because it's a kind of territory that is difficult for me to inhabit in the mind. You know, how much more if you like expand the map and ask people how Holo is in their mind, let's say when they're in the Visayas, when they're in Manila, for example, right? Farther and farther going towards the center. That's why the act of remembering, the act of retelling, the vivid dramatization is very important, so that history, this minute footnote in history, can have a proper justice in the imagination, right? And then that's why I would be very happy to read more, renderings, reimagining, adaptations that are based on historical events. Because our education is not only cerebral, it's we don't only educate the mind, we need to educate the heart, as if there is real divide between the two. So that's why literature is very powerful, because it enables us to learn from vicarious experience. It would be very sad if we have to experience war firsthand just to be able to understand how inhuman it is, and how shameful it is at this point and time in our age, and of course the next to that is the relevance of this kind of story to what's going on with the world. Nelson and I studied in MSU Marawi. MSU is a very important place in the formation of ourselves, as persons, as cultural workers, as writers. So when the Marawi siege happened, we wanted to understand through an analysis from many different ends, that are not only political and economic and psychological, but also imaginative and literary, because the human psyche, feeling and thinking, these have many dimensions, and to be able to capture the scale, the magnitude of what happened to Marawi, there have to be many voices, many perspectives coming from many locations. And yet, when we talk of the Marawi siege, it happened in 2017, at a time when we are supposed to understand what it means to be human, and what it means to fight as human beings to protect our humanity. War is so shameful in this time and age, and yet we see certain national governments still legitimating war. Look at Palestine. It's heartbreaking. I have no words for it. We condemn the decisions of national governments who's pouring in resources to an effort to eradicate peoples, real human beings. So really, the story that we have speaks to these larger currents that we look at as aberrations in our modern time. 'Di ba? Nasa ano na tayo, napaka-advance na ng teknolohiya natin, napaka-advance na ng diskurso na nangyayari sa mga buhay natin, pero kaya pa rin nating tustusan ang mga giyera, kaya pa rin nating saktan ang mga bata, ang mga matatanda, no? Ang mga babae, ang mga lalaki, right? All sectors, no, that are involved. So these are major nodes of discourses that February 7 is opening for us, no, as a short story. And I think this is really the locations where the real power of the story is located, because it speaks not only to history but also to our present and the kind of future that we would like to imagine that is safe for everyone, right? Kahit tanungin mo yung hindi masyadong nakapag-aral, parang wala talagang magiging buboto sa giyera, that's why it's so unbelievable, that people who are wearing like white collars, people who are sitting on power able to decide just to eradicate peoples. And when Nelson was talking about the many versions of titling February 7 as a historical event, first we have the Battle of Olo. Battle means different. It's different when we say the burning of Holo, right? Holo is being burned. In battle, you see parties, struggling. And then the third one is the siege in Holo. So there is a perpetrator and there is a receiver of the violence, right? So even these variations in how this historical moment is being called are very suggestive of the instability of how to make sense of what happened. And then we do not forget that this happened in 1974, right? We need to implicate the political climate that is taking place in the center, and how decisions in the center actually have major consequences in the periphery, and how a particular theater of war can be mobilized towards political ends. Now, sino ang nagsunog? Right? Sino talaga ang responsable at paano ginamit ang pagsunog na yon, no, para ma-advance ang mga sumusunod na mga pangyayari, right? So ito yung mga bagay na na-open, no, ng kwento sa atin. Yung sinabi ni Nelson na a lot of people were displaced, there's a diaspora happening that is not only local but also international. We are dealing with lives that are being uprooted and are taking root in other nation spaces. Can you imagine that? One historical event that leads to a series of consequences, right? Series of exodus of people in the kind of lives that they will be living in the new spaces that they choose, right? If they survive, okay? So those are some, no, of the thoughts. I could go on, okay, but we don't have a lifetime to talk about this. I just want to say thank you so much, Nelson. I know Nelson as an infinitely gifted writer and artist, and I just want to thank you, Nelson, for allowing me, to read that story and to be in conversation with you today. If we have time for questions, I may ask certain questions, but I would also love to hear also what are the thoughts from our audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garcia. Dr. Garcia, for that sharing. Nakukuha ko na parang naka-highlight ng story yung different issues therein, that it also invites, the story is also inviting us to check some historical facts. You made mention that the Battle of Holo is different from the Burning of Holo, and I noticed also as I was reading the short story, there was a mention of Jabida massacre, which was not really being highlighted in some of our how do you say this, in some of our discussion, in some recuerdos, no, we mostly hear about the quarter storm, but for Jabida, it's not that being so much highlighted in relation to the EDSA revolution and so on and so forth. But it was nice of you to also invite us to have the discussion about the short story and study the political climate during that time and why it happened, no? Yun talaga yung pinakamahalaga eh. Hindi naman binabalikan natin dahil gusto nating manise, pero binabalikan natin para maintindihan kung ano mga ba talaga yung nangyari noon in a perspective in the perspective of the civilian, of the powerless, of the marginalized. So, syempre, parang gusto rin nating balikan si Professor Nelson, ano? Baka meron ding, ano rin ba yung kanyang iniisip habang nagre-react si Dr. Elio. Professor?
Yeah, thank you so much, Indasao. Sir Elio, thank you so much. I was not expecting that very like something. I don't know. I mean, I was just very amazed na meron mga perspektibo na hindi ko naisip when you like depend kaya nga depende talaga sa reader, no? And it was very surprising na may mga ibang perspektibo na nakita. At para hindi ko rin makalimutan actually the one of those inspirations pala na nakasulat tayo nito dahil sa painting, no? Dahil sa painting ng late visual artist natin na si Ramir Tawasil, yung Burning of Hulo talaga ang title niya, no? Isa 'yon. At marami pa tayong mga nabasa. I think another a book, The Seeds of Hulo, by Agnes, someone named Agnes. So yun, yeah, Sir Elio, sobrang daming perspektibo, no? Sobrang daming anggulo natin makita pala doon sa pagbasa mo ng story na to. Ang sa akin lang nung panahon na sinulat ko to, kung paano ko siya matahi or ma-weave na balanse, no? At gusto ko lang makita na or maisulat na wala akong biases kasi nga what I was thinking wala nga nananalo doon sa gera, no? Lahat tayo ay lugi, no? Mapa anong side man 'yan, bilang tao ang talagang natatakot tayo na magbuhis buhay, no? Na sana nga dahil sa itong short story na to maintindihan anong mensahe. Although hindi pa ito formally published, no? Kokonti pa lamang yung nakabasa nito. Isa na sa mga big isa big people na nakabasa, and I would say that I'm very honored to let Dr. Elio to read this, no? Para iba't ibang perspektibo kasi nga unang-una kaya na i-share sa iba't ibang nito para makita natin na hindi lang sa perspektibo ng naging biktima, no? Kasi nga, sabihin nga natin in general, bilang yung nasa Sulu Archipelago tayo ang naging biktima, so naranasan natin yon. Para naman hindi lang tayo dahil siguro tayo yung nakaranas, gusto natin malaman kung anong na-feel, no? Ng ibang tao na nasa labas ng kwentong ito. At kung maalala ko nung sinulat ko to, bigla kasing lumabas yung yung film na The Plane ba yun? Yung bigla sa Siasi na isang island ng nasa Sulu Archipelago, biglang nagkaroon ng airport, biglang nagkaroon ng malalaking plane of which sabi ko ganito pala ang work of fiction, no? Parang mabigyan mo masyadong progressive yung parang develop na siya. So parang nung pinortray doon ang kausog na bilang isang gumagawa ng hindi mabuti, so parang natawag tayo na meron namang side of the story na hindi ganun ang kausog. No? Biktima sila, no? Biktima kami or biktima ang lahat ng tao, mapatausog man or whoever, sama pa, Bisaya pa, na nasa Hulo. Wala na hindi na yun dapat yung parang argumento kada dahil nga Muslim tayo, Kristiyano yun, Bisaya yun, tausog tayo, sama, and everyone else. Kasi nga, ang nakikita natin yung biktima eh. Kasi sa common citizen, no, hindi sa character na to. Buti nga sa kwento nakasurvive siya eh. No? Pinasurvive natin. nakarating siya hanggang US at doon siya, dumating siya ng US hanggang tumanda siya sa US. Ayun, parang ang kwento is, ang kwento, nanonood siya ng news about the movie The Plane, nakita niya, tapos na-reminisce niya yung anong nangyari sa kanya nung bata pa siya eh. So, sige, patanda na ako dito sa US, so I need to go back home. Of which, timely, progressing na ang Hulo ngayon. So, ako sa tingin ko indirectly, no, parang, wow, nung naisulat natin ito nung 2 years ago, parang sumama na siya sa progression ba, no? At sa progress ng nangyayari sa Hulo. Na sana nga, hopefully na hindi na mangyayari ang gera kung saan ba man, no? Kung mailink pa nga natin ito sa nangyayari sa Ukraine, nangyayari sa Palestine, na sobra na eh. No? Sana hindi na mangyayari kasi magpuwis buhay. Sayang ang buhay. No? Sobra. Ito, 50 years na ito. Diba? Parang, ay nako, ang sakit-sakit sa puso na kung titingnan mo. Tapos recently, may nangyayari pang mga blast of... Hindi ko alam kung bakit pa tayo may mga ganun. Hindi ba pwedeng dito na lang, gawa na lang tayo ng bagay na para ma-develop tayo lahat. 'Di ba? Kung nasa isang bansa, hindi na, wala na sanang dapat labanan kung naa-address lang yung sinasabi na quote natin si former President Duterte na yung historical injustice. Na parang sa akin, kung may makukuha man dito sa short story na to, at sana dadami at dadami pa ang sulat. Sabi ko nga, hindi rin naman tayo bilang isang quote-unquote manunulat na talagang napakagaling. Kasi nga, sinubukan lang natin na kung kaya natin maikwento ito sa lingwahe na hindi naman natin lingwahe. Pero dahil gusto natin ng malaking audience, pinaghirapan natin na matuto kung paano isulat siya sa Ingles. Oo, pwede naman din isulat din sa lokal na lingwahe. Pero gusto natin na wide yung audience, nag-English tayo, no? Kasi naisip nga natin, ang dami ding makatulong mag-edit sa atin, eh, no? So, yun. Ako, sobra kong pasasalamat, no, dito kay Sir Elio. Dami kong natutunan nung sinabi niya at yung mga exchanges namin. Kasi parang naalala ko, Sir Elio, no, yung we talk about, when we start like doing or writing something like this, kasama yung breathing, yung rhythm ng breathing. So parang dito ko napifeel din eh, kasi parang soulful siya masyado kapag yung yung kwento na kasama siya sa breath. Kasi related din kasi yung breath sa life eh.